The show begins with our main character Scott collapsing in a desert. A girl in rollerblades rolls past him and Scott believes that she is his dream girl, or something like that. He wakes up next to his quote-unquote cool gay friend Wallace, and to be honest, I have no clue why they emphasize it like that. But it is what it is. Scott is 23 years old, unemployed and a freeloader, so Wallace is always pestering Scott and getting his own place. After receiving a morning coffee, made by Wallace of course, he leaves the house to play music with his band. Their music isn't at Drake's level, but the key thing here is that he's dating Knives, who is a 17-year-old high schooler. And to save Scott from the EDP treatment, I wanted to mention that they made it very clear that they haven't done anything like that. Later, him and his band are going to a party, and as soon as he enters, an introvert's worst nightmare happens. All his friends disappear. He decides to get a drink, and walk around where he encounters the girl from his dream, or you could say his dream girl. He finishes his drink and marches towards her. Alright guys, let's play a game here. What do you think Scott will say for his first impression? A. Talk about the party. B. Talk about maybe school. C. Where you're from. Or D. Sonic the Hedgehog.
You know Sonic the Hedgehog?
For everyone who chose D, you are correct. And choosing D unsurprisingly led to an awkward exit. He runs into the host of the party, Julie, and he manages to get her to tell him some information about his dream girl. Her name is Ramona, and her job is delivering DVDs for Netflix. He then leaves the party to go home. He orders a random movie from Netflix before sitting beside the door to wait for it to be delivered. After what seems like a few days, he gets a knock on the door, and to his delight, it's Ramona. He tells her that she is literally the girl from his dreams, and surprisingly, she gives him some logical answer. Ultimately, he decides to ask her out on a date. They meet up and have normal first date chit-chats. However, it's revealed a random guy is watching them, and he says the game has begun. They are walking and a snow blizzard occurs, so she takes him to her house. She makes them both teas, but she notices he's still cold, so she goes to get him a blanket. After waiting a few minutes, he decides to go to search for her, but he catches her changing. And what happens for the next 5 minutes is most definitely not allowed on YouTube, so I'll summarize it to just they're a couple now. The stalker is the leader of Ramona's evil exes league, Gideon. He tells Ramona's first ex, Matthew, to attack Scott. As they are jealous, he's dating Ramona, and he's still dating the high schooler, so he's cheating on Ramona. Kind of. In the morning, Scott tells Ramona to visit his band's show that evening. She accepts, and Scott walks home feeling like the man. He tells his roommate about his new girl, and he tells him to break up with his high school girlfriend. He also receives an anonymous letter challenging him to something, but he disregards it. At the concert, Scott sees both girls he's talking to, so he runs backstage to his band. They start playing and make it like 5 minutes before being attacked by Matthew. He tries to punch him, but Scott blocks it and then counterattacks. He introduces himself as the man who sent the letter and tells him that the letter he disregarded stated that he has to fight 7 of Ramona's exes before he can date her. They get ready to throw hands. Scott starts to charge, then they both start charging into each other, but Scott misses his punch and is hit on the head, turning him into coins. Having won the fight, Matthew believes Ramona should date him, but to his dismay, she disregards him and walks away. Boys, killing a dude will not make her like you. Ramona is preparing for Scott's funeral. She dyes her hair and wears black. When she enters the funeral, she greets Wallace and takes a seat. Knives sees Ramona and blames her for Scott's death. Her rant is interrupted by Scott's famous ex called Envy. Envy sings a song in honor of Scott, and all of Ramona's exes receive a mysterious letter inviting them to the evil exes league's lair. That's a mouthful. Everyone is waiting at the table wondering who invited them. Matthew is then later revealed to be the one who invited all of them. Matthew complains that even though he defeated Scott, Ramona still doesn't want to date him again. Gideon then basically calls him a dumbass for taking his word. Fed up with Gideon's unfair rules, he decides to challenge him to a fight. If he wins, he will take Gideon's empire, but in defeat, he loses his life. They then begin the fight, and long story short, after many punches, explosions and stabs, a really cool fight occurs in the rain. Batman reference? Matthew overwhelms Gideon, smacking his sword out of his hands and pushing him off the building. Having lost the battle, Gideon signs the papers, giving away all his assets. Matthew walks away with pride, now knowing he is the leader of the evil league. Whilst Ramona is making tea, she thinks about Scott. She then goes to bed and is skating in the desert in her dreams. And to her delight, she can hear Scott's voice faintly calling her. She wakes up now knowing Scott is still alive. This guy called Young Neil is at his computer trying to write a screenplay. or in other words, writing a movie. He ultimately falls asleep and wakes up later having written nothing. Later that night, he is suffering from sleep paralysis and sees a masked figure writing on his computer. This is actually pretty important later on. In the morning, he wakes up and sees a professionally done screenplay printed and titled as him. Ramona dyes her hair again, and I'm not too sure if this is even important to point out, but I will say, orange and yellow is kinda cool. She visits Julie at her coffee shop, and she tells her that she believes that Scott is still alive, and she checked the security footage, and it's visible that Scott was kidnapped and not turned into coins. I would like to mention that the person left behind $2.10, so I'm assuming that this is how much his life is worth. Moving on, Ramona asks Julie for possible suspects to the kidnapping. They go through a couple of different people, but none of them seem like the kidnapping type. So Julie tells Ramona that she should visit Scott's other ex, Kim. Kim is playing with the band, and they are trying to find a replacement to Scott. They decide that Knives to try, and she impresses everyone with her exceptional bass skills. Kim rushes to work. She is getting ready when Ramona pays her a visit. They have small chit-chat about Scott, however, it's interrupted when another visitor arrives. It's Ramona's fourth ex, Roxy. She comes in wanting to throw hands, so they start the fight, even though Ramona really doesn't want to. Quite a bit happens in the fight. They get isekai by Bookshelf Kun, transporting them into a black and white world. Unfazed, Roxy charges at Ramona with her sword. Kim and her boss are somehow watching them on TV. They change the movie so now they're on a plane. A box smashes a hole into the plane, and they're both sucked out, sending them falling to their death. After falling into a black hole, they wake up back in the store. They agree to be friends, and she leaves peacefully. Ramona picks up a sign of a movie star called Lucas, and it's revealed that he's also one of Ramona's exes. Gideon visits Julie, where it's revealed that they have history. She also remembers his real name is Gordon. She takes pity on him for losing everything and invites him inside. Lee wakes up in his luxurious mansion. He also built like a unit, I do have to say. Whilst he's out with some friends, he gets a call from his agent. She tells him that he's on the brink of being cancelled, and he's being hired for potentially his last role. Ramona dyes her hair once again. There's definitely something going on here. She goes to the movie theatre to search for Lucas. To her surprise, she finds Neil and finds out he wrote the movie Lucas will be starring in. And weirdly, the movie is based around Scott's life. More specifically, the first episode. The script is changed to a world where Scott wins the fight. Neil takes Ramona to Lucas's trailer. She knocks on the door and Lucas answers after a long delay. He's dressed up as Scott and she asks him questions about what happened to Scott, but it's obvious he's trying to hide something from her. He then swiftly closes the door on her. Back at the studio, they are remaking the first scene. Wallace doesn't like his actor, so he gets everyone's attention. He manages to impress the director and replace the actor. Wallace questions how Neil knew exactly what happened in their bed, but he just disregards it. Wallace tells Ramona about Lucas's scandal. She goes back to Lucas's trailer trying to confront him about the scandal. He lets her in and there's no evidence of the scandal. Whilst they are chatting, the TV exposes Lucas for dating someone who's playing the role of a high schooler. His defense is, she's 31 in real life. Pause. After the news, they are attacked by paparazzi. Long story short, whilst fighting them, he is thrown into a building. Ramona comes to his aid. She skates outside the building, leaving all the paparazzis clueless. And it's revealed that Lucas was hiding inside her bag. He tells her that his career is over. With her suspicions gone, Lucas gets out of the bag and walks away. Ramona notices a portal and one of her exes comes out, Todd. He's here to try to get the role of Scott. Ramona now suspects that Todd took Scott. Ramona shows Todd and Envy the security footage, showing Vegan Portal being used to kidnap Scott. Todd says that's not his portal, as that one is much more advanced. Matthew arrives at the filming studio to shut the movie down. He believes that the movie is undermining his greatness as Scott wins in their version. Knives makes a proposal to Matthew about something, but he doesn't have time to listen, so he gives them a business card. Ramona confronts Matthew and tells him that Scott isn't dead. Matthew tells her that Scott being dead gave him the confidence to take Gordon's empire. He also tells her that Gordon is now living with Julie. This sparks some alarm in Ramona's head, so she heads off to pay Julie a visit. We can see Julie and Gordon watching something intently on TV. Ramona meets Julie at the cafe. She tells Ramona that Gordon is her high school sweetheart, or something like that. She says that wasn't her or Gordon, as all he's been doing is eating junk food and watching anime. Kinda like me. Knives manages to convince Matthew to do a musical instead of the movie. Feeling bad for Neil, they apologise, but Neil isn't bothered that the movie got cancelled as he didn't write it. He reveals that a random figure wrote it. They all check the computer to find out more about the script, and they find out something shocking. Ramona is on her way home and meets the band waiting outside her house to share some news. Ramona tells them that after crossing off all of her exes, she knows it had to have been the twins who kidnapped Scott. She then shows them the footage of a robot that the twins made, creating the portrait that kidnapped Scott. The band then reveals that the script that Neil had was made 14 years in the future. Someone knocks at the door, and to everyone's shock, it's Scott. He confirms that it was the twins who kidnapped him, but he was the one who did it. I won't lie, around episode 5 I began to lose interest in the anime. I checked the ratings and reviews on the show, and all I'll say is that it's not the best. But I'm no quitter, so I'll charge for it. Back to episode 1, we see that Scott is transported through time, and the person who did this was his future self. He shows him a slideshow of what happened between him and Ramona, and it ends in divorce. So future Scott brought him back to avoid the heartbreak. Scott, with the help of future Wallace, finds future Ramona. She helps Scott travel back to his present, and it's also revealed that she wrote Neil's play. Scott finally breaks up with Knives, and tries to kiss Ramona, but there is a barrier stopping them. They conclude it's because Scott hasn't defeated all 7 of Ramona's evil exes yet. Knives tells them that they will all be attending the musical theatre. They all gather outside the theatre in preparation for the final fight. Whilst watching the show, Scott, Ramona and her evil exes are teleported to a desert. Future Scott is revealed to be behind everything. He spent 10 years training for the fight, so he easily defeats all of them. Future Ramona comes in and complains to future Scott for basically ghosting her. They merge and send him back to his timeline. They break the barrier, then kiss. Last thing I'll mention on this is that she dyes her hair again. I will give this anime a can watch. If you're bored, maybe it's okay, but personally I'm not a fan that they basically killed off the main character in the first episode. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment below any good animes I should recap next. Look out and take care.